Hey, this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my UFC 153 post-fight analysis. Top to bottom, this was a really fun card. Despite like the main event being changed and being a mismatch, I mean it's still must see. That main event, just for Anderson and what he does, is just it is must see. Excuse me. As far as the fights go, I mean, we got, some decisions, but, with fun fights. A lot of submissions. I'm curious, as of this recording, they didn't put, like, fight and night, submission and night and whatnot. A lot of good submissions here, too. Nogueira got a good one. Phil Davis, Damian Maia, all got good submission victories here. So it was just a really fun card. That Brazilian crowd, man, is just insane. When like Buffer says like it's time, they said it with them, and they're just so into every fight from the first fight till the last fight. Definitely the best crowd that the UFC can get are like the Brazilian fans. I don't know if I just said this already, but I got 9 out of 12 of these correct. I missed the Camozzi versus Kane fight, Diego Brando versus Joey Gambino, and John Fitch versus Eric Silva. Let's get right to it. Anderson Silva defeated Stephan Bonnar by TKO in the first round. I get really like emotional just watching like Anderson Silva fights. It's so amazing to see this guy fight. Whether it's Stephan Bonnar or some high level guy, he does amazing things. This is no exception. I mean, you're up against a cage with your hands down, and you let the guy just punch, and he slips and rolls with a lot of the punches, counters. One thing that's really interesting about this fight too, it's something I always thought about with Anderson Silva. It's like, if this guy put in more offensive takedowns into his fight, into his arsenals, he'd probably be just like unstoppable. It looks like he has, he showed it here. He has good trip takedowns. Deceptive strength, really deceptive strength. He knows when opponents are off balance. It does. He's good in the clinch. It looks like he'd have a good clinch, especially trip takedown ability. He's never had to use it though. That's the big thing with him. He kneed him in the solar plexus, and after this insane like scramble, I don't even know if it was a scramble. It's just this weird sequence. That's the thing with the sequence with Anderson Silva's finishes are always like replay worthy. Even like the second Sonnen fight. You start with the knee to the solar plexus, and then all that. It's always like the sequence. It's not just the one punch that does it. It's like the whole sequence that sets up the finish with him is always just so amazing to watch. Like no one else does this, and it goes to show Anderson Silva really is a once in a lifetime MMA fighter. I mean, I don't think I'll ever see another like Anderson Silva or someone just so amazing in the UFC that can do what he does. The highest level fighters can't do what he does. In the sense of like standing against it, even if it is Stephan Bonnar. I mean, who's really gonna do that? Who's gonna stand against a cage with his hands down and just slip punches, roll with punches, and counter? I mean, no one's gonna do that. Even I can't see John Jones doing that to Stephan Bonnar. I can see John Jones really beating up Stephan Bonnar a second time because he beat him up the first time, but I can't see him go up against a cage and allow Stephan Bonnar to just tee off on him. I can't see that with Aldo or GSP. It's just like only Anderson can do that. And it's amazing to watch. I mean, he's going back to middleweight. I think the fight that, I mean, obviously people want to see John Jones versus Anderson Silva. I don't think it's going to happen. I know BJ Penn. I had an argument with someone on Bloody Elbow about it, actually, or debate about it. You know, and he referenced, oh yeah, but the UFC back in UFC 92 did BJ Penn versus George St. Pierre, and they might actually do George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva at a catchweight. But for some reason, I can't see the UFC, and even that fight, I don't know if they'll really want to do that. You know, it's a different time for the UFC. You know, it's not the heydays or their pay-per-views. You know, their baseline was like 300,000. You know, now it's like 175,000 is their baseline. You know, they're regularly getting 500,000 and hitting million pay-per-view buy marks multiple times in the year. It's not that time anymore. So that's why, like, I can't really see them doing that type of fight and risking one of their champions really losing credibility at this time by, you know, losing in a super fight at this time. It could happen. I can't see it. As far as Anderson Silva's next opponent, Michael Bisping's probably poised to fight him next. I think with Chris Weidman, if he beats Boach, maybe he'll get the title shot if he looks really impressive. I think he maybe need one more fight after that. Yeah, one other thing that's interesting is Anderson Silva's takedown defense. It's really improved over time. You know, it's definitely one of the holes that he's fixed really well. You know. So that's really good to see, which makes him harder to beat. Next right after that, Antonio Rodrigo Minotauro Nogueira beat Dave Herman by armbar in the second round. You know, Dave Herman said way before the UFC was putting out, you know, that sound bite where like jiu-jitsu doesn't work on me. He was saying that a long time ago. This is something Dave Herman has said for a long time. You can tell during this fight that Nogueira really wanted to take this fight to the ground and get a submission. Even though he was beating them up on the feet, and Herman's like hands are crap, man. The guy just says, I mean, seriously, he would measure, but he wouldn't jab. He would just measure and keep measuring. And then Nogueira would hit like so many overhand right, left hook combinations, just like at will, even dropping him at one point. You know, I don't know if Herman's cut, if you know, because he's kind of on this losing streak. He lost to Roy Nelson by knockout before this, and then Steven Struve. You know, he doesn't seem to take fighting seriously, to be perfectly honest with you. There's something about his mannerisms that doesn't indicate that he takes it as seriously as he can. And his natural ability is really good. Look at his whizzer, man. I mean, this guy was just doing that same toss from the whizzer on Nogueira. I mean, he has natural ability, but to me, it seems like he doesn't have the discipline here. I don't know if he'll be cut, but he should just be fighting more lower to mid-tier guys. I think Nogueira's just at that point where, like, maybe you can probably get like a Congo or Nelson. If they want to give him tough guys, they can. I can also see him just feeding a lot of these new guys to Nogueira. Maybe a Struve, even though I think Struve should fight like Bigfoot. Jeez, who else is coming up in the division? It's so hard to say. Jeez, I guess a guy like a Congo would be a good fight for Nogueira. Because I can't think of any guys that are really coming up. Or else he can fight some of the top 10 guys. But, you know, jeez, it's really hard to say he should fight. He's fought Mir. You know, I don't know if he'll fight Verdum. He's not going to fight Junior Dos Santos. He's lost to Cain Velasquez. He's fought a lot of guys at this point. You know, so it's hard for me to say who he's going to fight next, though. The armbar sequence at the end was really interesting because Herman actually defended it well by turning towards him. Rolling actually was a thing that made it worse. And Nogueira's belly down, and then he turned him over again and just really got that armbar really in, and he tapped. It's a really cool sequence to see. But yeah, good one for Nogueira. I wish I could really pinpoint a guy who should fight next. The only guy I can really think of at this point right now is like Czech Congo, to be honest. Maybe a Verdum. Jeez. Maybe Cormier if he comes in, I guess. Maybe Struve, unless they do Struve versus Bigfoot. Marco Hunt, maybe. There's guys for him to fight. The next fight after that, Glover Teixeira beat Fabio Maldonado by a doctor stoppage and the end of the second round. Maldonado's really interesting. I mean, I always say this about him. One, he's a blown-up middleweight. Two, he actually has this, like, really oddly good cardio despite his looks. I mean, like, he looks like he's carrying extra weight, and the fact that he gets beat up so much. It's just, the guy never seems like he's just huffing and puffing. He's still fighting, and it's really odd to see because he gets beat up so bad in so many of his fights. I think he's on a 3-fight losing streak right now. I hope they don't cut him, though. He lost to Kingsbury, Igor Prokrak, and now Teixeira. He just can't be knocked out. But, man, this guy is probably going to suffer some sort of brain damage or something, or just feel the effects of this later on in his life, man. I mean, he takes so many shots, per fight. It's not healthy. I love watching him fight. His defense is atrocious. I mean, it's just non-existent, But he's fun to watch. I hope the UFC keeps him despite having a 3-fight losing streak. He fight like a Nick Penner, a Cyril Diabate, an Anthony Parash, Krzysztof Szczecinski, just invite people like that. Glover Teixeira should fight top 10 talent. He definitely has well-rounded ability. You saw some of his wrestling. His ground game's really good. His mount is really strong. He has a really great mount. And just general good guard passing ability. And his stand-up is solid as well. Doesn't throw a lot of kicks, primarily boxer, but he has cinder blocks for hands as well. I'd like to see him fight Rampage next. I think that's a really good fight for him. I can see him eventually fighting a John Jones in the future. I think he has the skill set of a top 10 talent. He just needs to beat those top guys in the division now. I think, a lot of people don't want to fight him because he's dangerous and no one knows who he is. With 2 pretty emphatic wins in the UFC now, I think I hope that a lot of fighters reconsider. I'm not saying they're ducking him, but just one of those things where it's a lose-lose situation for a lot of these, like for Rashad Evans or something. It's like tough fighter, not much to gain by beating this guy. But now, he's getting some emphatic wins. People are starting to know who he is. Hopefully he can fight more of those top guys. I think the Rampage fight would be really fun. Okay, next fight after that, John Fitch beat Eric Silva by unanimous decision. I kind of thought the fight should have probably been stopped, actually. Silva, I guess I'd like to talk about Eric Silva here. I really hope he learns from this loss. I hope that he comes across and I picked him to win too, and he lost his fight. But watching the fight, it's just something I noticed in the first round. It's like, man, I really wish this guy wouldn't keep his hands so low and do so much flashy stuff. I I hope this is a wake-up call for him. I really do. And I hope he can really come back from this loss and not be that, like, what-if guy. What if this guy really was disciplined, you know, wasn't so flat. I don't want, you know, I really hope he doesn't become the what-if. You know, Melvin Gillard's kind of like that. You know, it's like the what-if guy. You know, his talent matched his discipline, you know. I'm sure Silva trains really well, but he just doesn't seem that disciplined in the cage. You know, his cardio doesn't look that great either. John Fitch, fun fight, you know. It really helps that Eric Silva was pretty much dying in this fight. And it's not to discredit Fitch, because he actually, it looks like he really did actively try and make this a fun fight. Good for Fitch. He kind of still fitched, though, you know, takedown, grind. But he's definitely doing a lot more ground and pound to finish the fight. You know, Fitch is back on track. He hasn't had a win in like 2 years. And this was a very solid win. Should fight more top guys. You know, I'm guessing the winner of Campman versus Kendricks is going to get GSP. I'd like to see Fitch versus Ellenberger. Just had a good win over to Herman. So Ellenberger would be good. I'd like to see Fitch Campman. That'd be fun. Another guy that's coming up, Damian Maia. Damian Maia and John Fitch would be a very interesting fight, especially on the ground. Especially the new or the old Maia coming back. You know, that was the thing. You know, the thing with Eric Silva is he kind of proves that he can beat the lower and mid-tier guys. He beat Brenneman, you know, he beat Luis Ramos. You know, he should have technically beat Prater. It looks like he can beat those guys. So he's kind of at that weird place right now. It's like, okay, there's certain guys he can beat, but like, how does he do against the top guys? Yeah, other top guys. Yeah, I'm curious to see how everything turns out for Silva. I'm curious with Fitch to see if he can keep being a more exciting fighter that's going for the finish. Yeah, one thing with Silva, going back to Silva, it's like, one thing with Silva, he has a lot of natural ability. I mean, it shows. That way he took Fitch's back, you know, a couple of times. A couple of his strikes. You know, he has a lot of natural ability. But he just doesn't seem to have that discipline to really do much with it. He also seems to have like forsaken any semblance of the basics. You know, he doesn't have any basics anymore and just seems to like go for flash. Hopefully he changes that up. I don't know. But yeah, good fight there. Next round out, Phil Davis beat Wagner Prado by Anaconda choke in the second round. This fight kind of went how expected. I mean, Davis's grappling is just too good. Prado, heavy-handed guy, really big, hits hard, but had nothing for the wrestling. He was getting ragdolled at times. That on Anaconda choke was sick. Phil Davis went for a arm triangle. There's a scramble, and then he went for his Anaconda choke, similar to the one that beat Alexander Gustafsson. With Prado, he should probably just fight more to lower to mid-tier guys in the division. Davis is just kind of at the point where, you know, it's obvious he can beat the mid to lower tier guys. You know, you shouldn't give him those guys anymore. Yeah, he lost to Rashad Evans, and he still needs work with his striking. His footwork's kind of, he's super wide. And I've always seen him slip a lot. Because he's always, like, really wide. He is improving, but, you know, he still needs a lot of work in stand-up. His ground game, it's great. I can't believe this guy's a blue belt, you know. Maybe he's not great off his back or something. But on top, he's really good. He actively passes guard. Really hunts for the submissions. Has a good, really good in the front headlock position. You know, but yeah, he should be fighting more top guys. I know he Swiss fight Lyoto Machida one time. The problem is, like, I think he should fight top guys, but not too high. You know, like, you know, nothing that's like too much too soon. Maybe a Thiago Silva or something like that. You could give him Glover Teixeira, I guess. Bader would be an interesting fight, even though Bader's coming off a loss. You know, Shogun, even though Shogun's fighting Gustafsson already, it's kind of tough to say because he's just at that level of like, okay, he consistently beats the mid and lower tier guys. He beat like the fringe top 10 to 15 guy and Lil Nog. You know, I think he should kind of fight more guys like that. I'm guessing. Okay, next fight after that, Damian Maia beat Rick Story by rear naked choke in the first round. Good. Welcome back, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Damian Maia. Goodbye and good riddance to K1 kickboxer Damian Maia. Man, I missed you, man. Where were you? You know. Granted, I mean, he's shown some of this ability against like a Kendall Grove, Morgan Miranda, Jorge Santiago, but not to this level. You're like, when he started out, I mean, he seriously would just bull rush guys to the cage, really get the takedown easy from the clinch, and work his game. And he did that against Dong Hyun Kim, and he really did that on Rick Story. I mean, I remember one commenter, I think it was on Bloody Elbow, said like, man, at 170, Damian Maia is hell on wheels, man. I mean, seriously. I love seeing this guy, man. You know, K1 Maia, you know, we don't need that guy, you know. I hope we're done with him. I hope we see this guy, you know, relentless. He's just like glue with his takedowns, and then he's so smooth with the transitions, man. I mean, you know, it's funny because he hit that same. He'd get the takedown and kind of end up in that same position, but wouldn't let up, you know. Make sure to get back to his feet, went back to that same position, where he's kind of got his back, and eventually got his back, and had kind of like this, like, neck crank, rear naked choke thing going on. It was beautiful, man. I mean, just beautiful. Rick Story, I mean, he lost to Campman, he's lost to Brenneman, he has big wins over, like, Thiago Alves. You know, he's a good fighter, but it's just that one thing that's really strange, he's a wrestler, but his takedown defense isn't that good. I think he's been taken down by almost every one of his opponents in the UFC. I think that's the case. I think he fought like Oshipshak one time and got taken down by him. You know, jeez, like every opponent seems to take this guy down. He's really aggressive. He pushes forward. You know, he's a big welterweight. And he has good offensive wrestling, good stand-up. You know, hits goes for the body. You know, but yeah, good work rate. But his takedown defense isn't that great. You know, I have to say. Maia should be fighting top guys now. I mean, you know, even though like the Dong Hyun Kim victory wasn't like much of a victory because Kim got injured. This is a good victory, and he's showing he's going back to his roots. He's also just an interesting stylistic for some matchup for some guys, especially a guy like a John Fitch. You know, like I think that's a good match just because like, or Mike Pierce. You know, just he's that guy that is just. You don't want to go to the ground with the guy, and now he's being a bull about getting the clinch and getting the takedowns. You know, it's just an interesting stylistic matchup because, you know, if a John Fitch or Mike Pierce takes him to the ground, it's not safe for them. And then Maia's probably going to want to clinch with them, so he can get into their game and be comfortable wherever the fight goes. So I'd like to see him fight some top guys, to be honest, especially like a guy like a Fitch or a Pierce, because I don't know if he'll be kryptonite to those type of guys, but I just think it's such an interesting stylistic matchup. You know, I mean, if not, you know, it's a guy like Ellenberger, Koscheck, Campman, Hendricks, you know, all those guys. You know, the loser of Campman versus Hendricks, you know. Maybe the loser of GSP versus Condit can fight Maia. So, yeah. This story, though, I guess it's back. You know, it's sad because he can beat most of the lower to mid-tier guys. That's the thing. You know, he's just kind of in this in-between area right now. You know, he has a big win over Johnny Hendricks. I don't know if at this point he can beat Johnny Hendricks now, because Hendricks made some improvements. But, you know, he has a big win over Hendricks, you know, and Thiago Alves. But he's at the weird, like, middle, where he's losing to, like, top guys like Campman and Maia. But then, you know, he can beat a couple top guys as well. And consistently beat mid and lower tier guys. So, yeah, it's kind of weird where Story is right now. And he's still a young guy, so hopefully he just improves. Okay, next right after that, and this is the prelims. Honey Jason beat Sam Cecilia by TKO in the, I think it's the second round. Or at least, it says it's the third round here, but I don't think it was. This was a really fun fight. Sam Cecilia, though, man, this guy hits hard, has a brick for a head, but, man, he has bad defense, and he only goes for that right hand. I mean, like, that is like 80% of his offense. Good move for Jason here. I wonder, I think he's fun at bantamweight. I'd kind of like to see him actually cut down to 135. If he can't, I'm pretty sure he's fought a good amount of his career there. You know, his striking's improving, his counter striking's improving really well. When he doesn't get into brawls, he actually has some good defense in the stand-up. If he stays at 145, I mean, you can give him other prospects like a Brimage, have him fight like a Nam Fan. You know, Diego Nunez would be kind of cool, actually, versus Honey Jason. I mean, it's kind of a step up for Jason, though. San Cecilia, just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. Next right after that, Gleison Tebow beat Francisco Trinaldo by unanimous decision. There's some trouble for Tebow in that second round, man. You know, I was worried for him, but he ended up getting the win. You know, he's just one of those weird guys, too. He's been like a perennial, like, upper mid-tier guy forever. I mean, he can't seem to beat the like top guys like a Jim Miller, but he can beat some, you know, other like lower tier guys. Beat Rafael dos Anjos, who I think's I think he's a really good fighter. You know, just beat Tornado here, who's a really tough guy. Yeah, Tino's just in that weird area, you know. He's in a really weird spot because he's a good fighter. His striking's really improved too. You really saw it in some of the exchanges. Tebow throws straight punches. Tornado would throw looping punches, and Tebow's would connect first. You know, striking's made good improvements. You know, he has good offensive takedowns and strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but for some reason, he just can't seem to break into that top 10. You know, he does have some good ones, so I'd like to see him fight some top 10 guys, you know, and see him get a chance. Maybe the winner of Maynard versus Lozon or something like that. I know Wyman's coming off that big one over Paul Salas. So that'd be interesting. I guess he can fight a guy like a Volkman, too. I mean, you know, it'd be an interesting style matchup at least. With Ronaldo, just more mid to lower tier guys in lightweight. The next fight after that, Diego Brandao beat Joe Gambino by unanimous decision. I liked what I saw from Diego Brandao. I picked this one wrong. I thought it'd be a case of, you know, weather the early storm and, you know, Gambino would be able to capitalize, and that was the case. Diego Brandao showed to be more more disciplined. It seems like he really did learn from the Elkins fight. Gambino's got a hell of a chin. He's dropped multiple times and recovered. You know, with Brando too, well-rounded guy. You know, he has good striking. You get to see some of his wrestling. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu strong. At 145, you know, I guess he can fight like a Honey Jason. That'd be pretty cool. Jeez, it's so hard to say. You know, he already beat like Dennis Bermudez. Yeah, but he lost to Elkin, so it's hard. Maybe a Peralta, Robert Peralta versus Diego Brando. I think that'd be pretty cool. Both those guys are coming up. Peralta is such a dark horse in the division too. But I think it'll be a good matchup for him. You know, it's a step up for Peralta that he needs. I think he's around the level of Brando. Okay, next fight that Sergio Moraes beat. I guess I would say Rene Forte, but it's like. Hene Forch, but Sergio beat him by rear naked choke. Sergio has really funny striking. He really throws these looping punches, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are really good. I know Hene, he's gonna go down to 155 if he gets another fight, and he's probably just fight more lower to mid-tier guys. Same with Sergio, actually. He should probably just fight more lower to mid-tier guys at welterweight. Maybe give him like a Matt Riddle or someone like that, you know. Someone kind of low on the totem, you know. Not too high on the total bull, you know. Not too low, I guess. Okay, next after that, Chris Camozzi beat Luis Kane by unanimous decision. Kane is probably going to be cut, you know. It's sad seeing him because I really liked what I saw from him when he first entered the UFC. The guy was a killer on the feet, and he just seems so much more hesitant these days. I always pick against Camozzi, and I really shouldn't, but I always do because he always comes across like, and he always proves it. And the announcer said too, solid but not spectacular, and that defines Chris Camozzi very well. You know, he's decent everywhere, but he's not great anywhere. You know, he's not a specialist in any one department, but he has good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. It's nothing great. You know, guys like Noki managed to submit him. Francis Carmon managed to really beat him up, especially in the stand-up. You know, but he's winning. You know, before this he beat like Nick Catone, and I think he has another one by guillotine before that. You know. So it's kind of strange. I don't know who should fight next. Maybe like a Nick Ring or something like that. Or maybe they'll run out Tom DeBlas versus Ricky Fukuda versus Camozzi. And finally, Cristiano Marcelo beat Reza Madadi by split decision. Close to a robbery. I mean, I picked Cristiano Marcelo to win. But honestly, I think Reza Madadi should have won the fight by 29-28. That 30-27 scorecard is utter BS. Cristiano Marcelo did not win the first round. It was a fun fight. You know, they were mainly standing. Both these guys were really tired. I think Marcelo fought through the tiredness more. You know, just let these guys fight lower to mid-tier guys in the division. Marcelo doesn't have good stand-up defense. He leaves his chin high. He goes straight back when he retreats. He has his hands down a lot of times. So yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my UFC 153 post-fight analysis. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you very much.